From the Chuck Barris stages in Hollywood, California, it's 3's A Crowd. The game that determines who knows the husband best, his wife or his secretary.
3's A Crowd was broadcast from the 17th of September 1979 until the 1st of February 1980, a span of only 4.5 months. Despite this short runtime, it was reportedly responsible for 12 divorces. Following its cancellation, the creator Chuck Barris reportedly spent a year locked inside his house and never had another original game show broadcast on television. So, what went wrong? 3's A Crowd was created by legendary game show producer Chuck Barris. His production company had already brought to our screens The Gong Show, The Dating Game and The Newlyweds Game, which were all big hits in their day. Barris took the tried and tested format of the Newlywed Game and altered it slightly. On the Newlywed Game, the format was a husband and wife, newly married, were asked a series of questions which they would both answer. The light-hearted fun would come from the differences in the answers they gave. The major change in 3's A Crowd was this. A husband, a wife and the husband's secretary were asked a series of questions about the husband. The devastation would come from the differences in the answers they gave. Adam Nedeff, an author of game show history books, believes the show was responsible for at least 12 divorces. It seems crazy to think about how much the direction of people's lives were changed by going on this game show. The show opens with Jim, Peck and the husbands. He asks them usually between 2 or 4 questions which they answer. The secretaries then follow and answer the same questions, and then finally the wives. At every stage, the contestants hear the previous answers that were given. The show is team-based, the secretaries versus the wives. Whichever team matches the most correct answers with the husbands wins $1,000, split between the 3 winners. You, watching this right now, might already see what many television executives in the 1970s couldn't, and that is that this could end disastrously.
Now we're talking about before you were married. Did you or did you not ever make whoopee with your secretary? Bob, before you were married now?
I sure did.
The questions the show asks are almost designed to cause relationship breakdowns, if not sow seeds of doubt. If you had 1 week to live, would you make whoopee with your secretary? What is something strange your secretary does when she kisses? What sort of questions are those? The show presents itself in this light-hearted, funny way. Everybody laughs when the secretaries expose the husband's flirtatious ways, but I think there's a real undercurrent of nastiness to this show. One question asked is, your wife's blank is 1 inch off centre. The husbands and then the secretaries have to answer what this blank is.
Her nose?
The show opens it up to laugh at the wives' flaws and pick apart their insecurities, all while the husband is being clapped and cheered for being unfaithful. Another time, they make the secretaries ask the husband in the sexiest way possible for a $5 a week raise.
I'm going to have her ask you, in the sexiest way she can, for a permanent $5 a week raise.
God, man, it's so degrading. It's just plain wrong. What bothers me is that the show didn't have to be like this. The whole tone is dictated by the questions asked. Imagine a world where the producers chose to ask questions such as, what food does the husband pretend he likes? The show might have been a big success, and Chuck Barris might not have had to lock himself in his house for a year. Going into these shows blind, I expected some of the attitudes to be a little unpolitically correct, but I was genuinely shocked by some of the content. I almost think the show could be used in history classes as an example of attitudes towards women at the time.
We're going to give your wife your secretary's chest. Now, what else would you like her to have from your secretary, physically speaking? Fowler?
Jim Peck is the host and seems like a good bloke, I think. I'm assuming he hasn't come up with any of the questions himself and was completely misled about what the show was going to be, but was contractually bound to keep presenting it. He does a good job as a host if you don't listen to any of the content of the questions or watch any of the reactions to them. As an actual host, he keeps the show moving quickly and on topic, I guess. I really wonder what Jim thinks. I would love to interview him. What was he told the show was going to be like, and when did he realise it was such a bad idea and it was too late to back out? Jim remains largely impartial. However, after one question is asked, a secretary kisses a husband on the cheek. Jim turns to the camera and just gives it a look. It's a look that I think just lets his mask slip for just a second to tell us he knows this whole thing is a disaster. I don't even think the show can be one of these that you say, well, it's a product of its time. Some things you watch back and everybody is loving it, blissfully unaware of how bad it is going to look in the future. 3's a Crowd isn't one of these. Even though they hide it well, almost every wife seems uncomfortable being on the show. Around half the husbands do, and quite a lot of the secretaries as well. That is a lot of people to go on a game show that aren't enjoying themselves. Then, as I'm trawling through the episodes, I find something far more uncomfortable than finding out some greasy old bloke has slept with his secretary. The first question asked on the episode is, if you were single, what reason would you give not to date your secretary? Just for a moment, let's ignore how horrible that question is and continue. One guy answers how big her husband is. The crowd loves it. Then another guy answers,
It could really lead to marriage, I believe. I could fall in love with this girl.
So your reason would be that it could lead to marriage.
That's right.
Okay.
could lead to what? Well, that wasn't what I was expecting to hear, but okay. The next question is, what do you enjoy watching your secretary do the most? Here we go.
One thing you really enjoy watching Fran do.
I love to watch her walk.
Walk.
The way she walks? It's at this point you realise this guy's in love with his secretary hard. He's announced it on TV and his wife is going to find out in about 5 minutes' time. The secretary comes out thinking it's going to be something sexual too and is surprised by the answers.
Loves to watch you walk.
It drives me crazy.
Then the wife comes out and assumes the answer is going to be sexual as well. She can't believe what she's heard either. She's like, couldn't you have just said the way she eats a banana without chewing it? That I could deal with. There's real emotion and feeling behind this.
21 years down the drain. I mean, he's doing it right now. You just show me an attorney and I'll sign up. I don't believe you said that. And
You can almost see years of trust breaking down in seconds. It feels like you're looking into someone's private life and finding out things that are really intimate and raw. But not only that, you're watching it happen in real time. If you don't love your wife anymore and want to break up because you love your secretary, then do it, but don't do it on camera and make us watch it. Some of these conversations and discoveries should be taking place in an office, with a marriage counsellor or maybe even a divorce lawyer, not on television for everyone to see. I can watch people do an obstacle course, smash the knee into a rock, no problems at all. They can get hit in the face by an oversized hammer, television gold. However, with 3's a Crowd, there is something very deep and personal that makes me wince more than any physical pain can. It's sort of like when you're at a party and a couple starts arguing. Everybody sort of turns and looks away because of how awkward it is. Except with 3's a Crowd, that's the whole show. Every way you turn is a couple arguing. It's awful to watch. The whole time I'm watching, I'm just praying that the husband has been faithful. I think it's the only game show I've ever watched where I want the least action and drama possible. When thinking about rating 3's a Crowd, I didn't find it difficult to place at all. If you enjoy watching people's lives being ruined, their perception of love and years of trust unravelling before your eyes, then this show's for you. For me, I don't personally enjoy people getting upset like this. There's a real nastiness that runs through the show and it's very uncomfortable to watch. I think Chuck Barris's stellar reputation was a reason that this show was allowed to be broadcast, and in the end it almost lost him everything. The show is terrible.